Today, the top 5 is going to be top 5 most exciting rookies. And so I will jump in with both feet on that. Here we go.
Number 5.
Put Xavier Worthy at number 5. Xavier Worthy is faster than Tyreek Hill. And he was drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs, whose major struggle last year was at wide receiver, who basically probably got less from their wide receivers than almost any team in the NFL and still won the Super Bowl, have now teamed the man who set the record for the fastest 40-yard dash in the history of the Combine. They've teamed that guy with Patrick Mahomes. Now, is he going to be as good as Tyreek Hill? Very unlikely. Very few players ever have been. But he's going to be as fast, and he's going to make a difference. So if the topic is exciting, then I'm not sure how you can't include the fastest guy ever teaming up with Patrick Mahomes. I put him at 5.
Number 4.
I'm very interested to see Malik Neighbors. I mean, I had so many people in the build-up to the draft telling me that Neighbors was a better prospect than Marvin Harrison. Harrison obviously went ahead of him, and we'll get to him on this list. Neighbors goes to New York at a time when there is so much pressure on the quarterback and so much pressure on the coach. And they need that kid to become a star. They don't have Saquon anymore. That offense is going to run through that rookie. And they need him to be spectacular. And there are people whose opinions I value who tell me he's good enough to be. So I, for one, am very, very interested to see what Malik Neighbors looks like. I'll put him on my list of most exciting rookies.
Number 3.
Right behind Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison comes in as probably the most heralded wide receiver in recent NFL draft memory. At a time when we're drafting 5, 6, 7 rookies in the first round a year at the position, he comes in the most highly touted of anybody. So it's going to be fascinating. Does he become one of the best receivers in the league immediately? It's an interesting situation they have there in Arizona. I really don't know what to expect with him. I don't know what to expect with Kyler. I put him at number 3. And then I saved
number 2.
The quarterbacks for 2 and 1. I'll go Caleb Williams 2 in Chicago. Let's see what he's got. Let's see. He's going to be the starter from day one. Let's see what he's got. He's got weapons around him. He's got a good defense. It's going to be very interesting to watch. So, I mean, there's every reason to think he will be very exciting, but I had to put
number 1
at number 1, Jaden Daniels in Washington, who I also believe will start from the very beginning, who also has more talent around him than most people realize, who has a brand new, really interesting coaching staff and offensive coordinator situation set up there in D.C., and who candidly last year was the most dynamic college player by far. Caleb Williams, we can argue forever whether he was the better prospect or not. I think most teams in the league felt he was. But I don't think anyone felt he was the most dynamic individual player to watch. Jaden Daniels was spectacular to watch individually. So in my edition of Most Exciting Rookies today for our ESPN Radio NFL Rankum, I will go Jaden Daniels of the Washington Commanders at number 1.
The Niners have said they will not trade Ayuk, but who should be calling them anyway?
All right, Hannah, I feel like it's a responsibility for me to say the Commanders because we know that he is best friends with Jaden Daniels, has access to their practice film apparently as well. I'll give you one more that I think is just far too logical to dismiss. It's the Patriots, a team who certainly is looking for an established number 1 wide receiver, just drafted Drake May, and they don't want a repeat of what happened with Mac Jones, which was promised early in his career, eventually derailed in part because of a lack of established pieces around Mac Jones. So if you're the Patriots, Brandon Ayuk is young enough where it's not like he is about to exit the prime of his career. He very well may not have reached the prime of his career. He can age with Drake May whenever Drake May becomes a starter, which I think will be at some point during the middle of this upcoming season. They have tons and tons and tons of cap space. Basically, their entire offseason has been keeping the powder dry other than extending or renegotiating deals for players already on their roster. To me, New England makes a whole lot of sense. I still am dubious, though, that a trade actually goes anywhere with any team involving San Francisco and Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, the Patriots obviously have the cap space and the need. A team that doesn't necessarily have the cap space, but might even have a bigger need for a star wide receiver, are the Los Angeles Chargers, who moved on from Keenan Allen and Mike Williams this offseason. 32nd in my offseason playmaker rankings. have a roster that I imagine can win now if Jim Harbaugh does the magic he pulled in San Francisco now in Los Angeles. But he is such a complete player, I think, is what really appeals to me and would appeal to Jim Harbaugh. Not a guy who necessarily wants that flashy star receiver, but what he can do not only as a pass catcher, but as a blocker. Watch him on this play against the Seahawks, a long Christian McCaffrey run from last year. He is 50, 60, 70 yards downfield, making blocks to extend this play, nearly produce a touchdown. Off camera, he is celebrating like he just won the Super Bowl on this one where he's blocking downfield. That is infectious. That is why he had to grow earlier in his career when he was briefly benched by the 49ers. And that is why I think he would appeal to a coach like Jim Harbaugh, even if Jim Harbaugh's not necessarily looking to trade first-round picks for wide receivers.
I mean, box office there, too, in L.A., right? You have to have entertaining players.
I had not thought about the Chargers at all, part of the brilliance of Bill Barnwell. And I will say this, too, and I mentioned this a couple of days ago here on NFL Live. I think this dynamic has to be acknowledged if trade talks are ever going to get anywhere seriously between the 49ers and somebody else. It can't be a team that plays in the NFC that's got a shot to win big this year. They're not trading Brandon Ayuk, and I'm just making this up hypothetically, to the Lions or something, right? It can't be a team in the AFC that is viewed as a Super Bowl caliber team either. The 49ers are not in the business of making the Buffalo Bills or the Kansas City Chiefs better right now, especially because if they're getting draft picks back, those draft picks do nothing for them for this 2024 critical year. So the Chargers, while a team that I do think with Brandon Ayuk would envision themselves as being a capable playoff team, is relatively far away, not in geographic terms from the 49ers, but a relatively non-threatening AFC team that likely, if the 49ers make it back to the Super Bowl, they're not going to have to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers already jettisoned 2 very highly paid receivers. So I love the idea in theory, though.
That highlight tape that Bill just put together,
yes.
Harbaugh saw that. Yeah, and there might be a brick wall that's now broken in Los Angeles.
We'll see. We'll see if they have the dollars to make Brandon Ayuk happy and give him what he feels he deserves. All right, let's move on to another top 10 list from Jeremy Fowler on ESPN.com as he talked to front office executives and scouts around the league. Top 10 at each position. And since we're talking wide receivers, let's stay right here. Of course, you know JJ's number 1. Tyreek Hill is 2. Jamar Chase 3, followed by CeeDee Lamb and the aforementioned Devontae Adams. A.J. Brown ranking 6, followed by Amon-Ra St. Brown, Mike Evans, Stephon Diggs, and Brandon Ayuk, who we just talked to. So, Bill, let's spin this forward. Who is not on this list now that you think will be there after the upcoming season?
I believe a guy with unlimited potential is George Pickens, a player who has not had consistent quarterback play in Pittsburgh, but in terms of his production over the last couple of years, he's caught 16 more passes than an average receiver would have caught on those same throws. Only guys who have more relative around the league are Justin Jefferson, Devontae Smith, and CeeDee Lamb. Those guys are absolute superstars because they play with better quarterbacks. Now with Deontay Johnson out of the lineup and in Carolina, the path is clear for George Pickens to have a monster share of the passing workload. If the Steelers get anything out of Russell Wilson and Justin Fields this year, Pickens is going to be the guy most likely to benefit.
Palmeiras anuncia renovação com a Puma e novo contrato renderá mais de 40 milhões de reais. Novo vínculo do Verdão com a fornecedora é válido até o fim de 2028. O Palmeiras anunciou nesta terça-feira a renovação de contrato com a Puma. O acordo do clube com a fornecedora de material esportivo agora é válido até o fim de 2028. As partes não confirmam os números, pois dependem do resultado de vendas de produtos também, mas houve um aumento considerado substancial na parte fixa em relação ao último contrato. Antes da renovação, o Verdão arrecadava cerca de 40 milhões por ano com o fornecimento de material esportivo. Estamos muito felizes com a sequência da Puma como parceira de materiais esportivos do Palmeiras. Trata-se de uma empresa que vem demonstrando grande comprometimento e respeito com o nosso clube, disse Leila Pereira ao site do Palmeiras. A parceria entre Palmeiras e Puma foi iniciada na temporada de 2019. Com o novo vínculo, serão pelo menos 10 anos da marca produzindo material esportivo para as equipes masculina e feminina, profissional e de base do Verdão. Antes da renovação, o clube abriu concorrência e recebeu 7 ofertas de empresas interessadas em patrocinar o clube, que decidiu pela permanência da Puma. A Adidas, antiga parceira do Verdão, foi a principal concorrente. A decisão por renovar com a atual fornecedora se deu além do aumento do contrato, pelo engajamento da empresa na criação de linhas de roupas exclusivas. Uma delas, inclusive, será especial para o Mundial de Clubes. Dentro do Palmeiras, entende-se que a Puma tem se engajado cada vez mais em campanhas do clube, como do projeto Por um Futuro Mais Verde. Além disso, a diretoria vê uma presença cada vez maior dos uniformes da equipe em lojas no exterior. Bom, é isso, galera. Mais notícias, continue por dentro do nosso canal ou ative o sininho de notificação. Valeu! Ex-Sport Botafogo recorda truques de falta a Juninho pernambucano e compara meia a CR7. Sandro Barbosa resgata início da dupla na Ilha do Retiro no início dos anos 90 e espanto de primeira impressão ao ver meia jogando. Quem é aquele galegozinho, rapaz? Joga demais. Jogador do esporte no início da década de 90 e companheiro de time de Juninho pernambucano, Sandro Barbosa pode dizer que contribuiu com o sucesso do colega no quesito cobrança de faltas. Em entrevista ao Charla Podcast, o ex-zagueiro revelou ter dado truques de finalização ao meia, conhecido mundialmente pela precisão nas batidas na bola. Sandro Barbosa ainda recordou início de Juninho na Ilha do Retiro, onde foi tratado pela crônica esportiva da década como o rei da nação rubro-negra, e comparou a Cristiano Ronaldo. O que penso sobre Juninho? Ele tem o talento dele, craque, sabe jogar, mas foi um Cristiano Ronaldo na determinação, na entrega profissional. Ele era louco, altamente profissional, muitas vitaminas, muito treinado, diz Barbosa, conhecido também por Sandro Cocão. Orei na nação rubro-negra. Quem batia todas as faltas era eu. Era engraçado porque eu fazia muito gol e ele falava assim: Sandro, como é que tu consegue bater por fora da barreira assim? Tu faz muito gol, cara. Eu mostrava a ele o seguinte: a bola perto, se tu quer tirar da barreira, Juninho, o goleiro, dá 2 passes para trás. Se tu coloca a curva, ela vai para fora, porque é muito próximo da área. Agora, de longe, tu pode bater, porque a curva que ela vai fazer chega no gol e o goleiro vai ficar do lado de cá e não vai dar tempo de chegar, porque ele não vai ver nem a bola sair. Então comecei a conversar com ele. Resgata. É isso, galera. Mais notícias, continuem por dentro do nosso canal ou acessem o site oficial do GE para mais informações. Eu vou ficando por aqui. Se inscreva no canal, ative o sininho de notificação e deixe o seu like. Valeu!